Hi, welcome to the first episode of the Affinitive Design podcast by DEIV Architecture. My name is David Clayton and I'm an architect based in Salt Lake City, Utah. Thank you for joining me today. I may just be talking into the ether. Maybe nobody is listening. But I have this story to tell. I just need to tell this story. Last October, I was hiking through an area called the Needles at Canyonlands National Park in southern Utah. Most of the landscape was rocks and sand. It's really a desolate place. The most common life form to be seen there is a type of plant life that park rangers called biosoil. They said it was a critical species that feeds much of the environment in this area, and that we shouldn't walk on it. I did my best to avoid walking on it. For hours, I'm hiking and just loving the beautiful but alien landscape around me. On my way up to the feature destination, Druid Arch, I noticed a small puddle. Yes, a small puddle. This puddle was in perpetual shade and was probably about 1 to 2 feet deep. Now, that in itself was not the amazing thing. What was amazing to me was that we saw small frogs in this puddle. Yeah, little tiny frogs, only a ½ inch in length. And here they are, miles from any other source of water. I mean, literally no other source of water for miles. And these frogs are only a ½ inch in length. And they're living and thriving in just this tiny little puddle. I found this just amazing, surrounded by nothing but rocks and sand. Life is amazing. Nature is amazing. While I watched these frogs, I was thinking about their home, that puddle. That's absolutely critical for their survival, their well-being. I thought also about the biosoil and how amazing it is that something that doesn't even look like it's alive is indeed alive, and it was responsible for much of the ecological health of this little small corner of the earth. So, I think about our comfortable existence in the 21st century. I mean, we have it so good. I think we too often fail to notice how we have shaped the environment to our liking. We plant the species of trees that we want. We carry livestock from place to place and even breed the livestock to meet our specific wants and needs. Yet, at the same time, as we play gods reshaping our planet, we are also part of this planet. We are still part of nature. Without nature, we could not survive. And vice versa, without us, I think nature would not survive very well. So you might be wondering, why am I starting this podcast? Well, as an architect, am I just wasting my time? Am I just wasting my time producing this podcast? The answer is that I care deeply about the affinity we have with nature. This is one of the most critical things that we have in life. We cannot live without nature, and nature cannot live without us. We need each other. Most of us live in cities, and in these cities we spend much of our time in cars and in buildings that have no connection to nature. The one thing I know about life is that when I really need to feed my soul, I go into nature, and that recharges my spiritual batteries. Nature makes me whole. So when I think about the man-made environment so much of us stay in, day out, I think, are we starving ourselves of the very thing that gives us life? So what is this affinitive design that the title of this podcast is? Affinitive design is an architectural design philosophy. In short, it is the connection between humans and nature and the importance of our buildings, our cities, and our landscapes to connect us with nature. It includes making sure plant life is abundant in our buildings and our designs. It includes making natural landscapes a focus of views from our buildings and protecting views of others. It includes working with nature so that our buildings do no harm, but use natural systems to function and thrive. So maybe you're thinking I'm some sort of environmentalist. Maybe you're thinking that I'm some kind of new age hippie, when I'm talking about this theory. No, actually, I want us to thrive economically too. I believe deeply in free market economics. I want us to thrive. I want us to be able to gain wealth. because I believe that through wealth we can innovate and create better solutions to solve our ecological problems. And so that's what affinitive design is. Affinitive design is all about that connection to nature and making sure that we have a good, solid future. It's also about human relationships. Human relationships. So affinitive design, when I'm talking about human relationships, I'm talking about how the buildings can actually help people connect with each other. So have you ever been in a building or a space where you're surrounded by other apartments or surrounded by other units and you never once meet your neighbors? This is what I'm talking about. Design that can, I want design to be something that can connect people so that people feel like they have neighbors. They can feel like they're connecting with their neighbors and at the same time still feel like they have a little bit of privacy. So you might be wondering, what is the agenda for this podcast? What will future podcast episodes discuss? In future episodes, we'll talk about issues in architectural design, in construction. We'll talk about new technologies. We'll talk about renewable energies, building materials, doors and windows, structural materials. We'll talk about acoustics, energy efficiency, passive solar strategies, and many other topics. The point of this podcast is not just for me to sit here and preach to you a philosophy of architectural design. That would only be interesting to me. I want this to be a resource to you, the listener, so that when you decide to build that dream home or investment property, you have the tools you need to build. So before I close, I just want to mention our sponsor, DEIV Architecture and Design, based just outside of Salt Lake City, Utah. Their slogan is helping you design your world. With that, I hope you enjoyed this first episode of Affinitive Design by DEIV Architecture. Until next time, I'm David Clayton, signing off.